It's trying.
Mine says it's streaming.
Yep. Looks like it's working.
Yep.
Okay,
Good.
I think we're good.
Okay. Just for the benefit of anyone who is attending the live stream, we did call the meeting to order and approve the agenda. The next item on the agenda is audience business. Did you receive any emails, clerk?
We did not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may, can we
Yes.
just for the record note that roll call also took place and that you do have a quorum present for this meeting, because I think that might have happened just before we started to record the meeting. So
Can you see me? Oh, how weird. Look, I have no screen. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties with my computer.
I was just going to say I got booted and came back. It's working super well tonight, apparently.
No, I don't know what's happening. Maybe the internet's not spectacular.
Mayor, Maureen asked if you would note for the record that we have a quorum and we did roll call prior to starting the recording and the live stream.
So noted. We do have quorum, and absent are trustee Ott and trustee Kimberly. Okay, can I move forward now? Are we good, Linda?
You can. I'm just not working, so you guys go, and then I'll try to figure out what's wrong with my computer.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is audience business. You indicated there was no emails. I think we did have 2 attendees, but they were here for an item on the list.
Yes.
So, okay. So next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. For the benefit of the audience, tonight's items on the consent agenda are the August 18th, 2020 payment approval report in the amount of $328,696.05 and the August 4th, 2020 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to present the consent agenda, to approve it as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from trustee Strack and a second from trustee Jeffrey. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lothran,
Yes.
Trustee Morris,
Yes.
Trustee Westcott,
yes.
Trustee Jeffrey. Trustee Jeffrey. Did I lose her? Oh,
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Strock.
Aye.
Okay, and the other ones still aren't on, right? Okay.
Motion
Okay.
carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the financial update. Ms. Rademacher.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Before you, you have the July 2025. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with them since we will be talking about the forecast and budget a little later on in the meeting. And incorporated in the forecast is the current year-to-date July financials, basically, and a forecast for you all to look over. I will make a couple of notes that August is a big month for municipal revenue streams, especially. We should be getting in the final amount of the severance and mineral lease taxes. We should be getting another payment in for CTF revenue for lottery funding. The property tax, the first certification evaluation should be coming in next week. And we should also be getting a estimate for the highway user tax for final year, how much to anticipate for forecast for the rest of this year, in addition to a forecast for 2021. So within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I should have a whole lot of better idea of what revenues are going to look like for the rest of this year and going into 2021. So the September report will have a lot more detail as far as where our revenues are headed and what to look forward to for both forecast and budget. That being said, if anybody has any questions, I can answer anything. Otherwise, I think, things may come up during the 2020 forecast and budget presentation later on in that presentation in the meeting.
Okay, I will check for virtual hands. Trustee Strack?
Just a simple question. When I look at the end of the general fund and look at the net revenues over expenditure, it looks like we're about $250,000 kind of in the hole. Is that correct? And Is there a real reason for that? Is that revenues that we just haven't received yet for this year?
Are you looking at page 5
10.
of the
Page
the
10.
financials? Oh, page 10 for, okay, not just revenues, for the entire fund. Yeah, that's going to be a summary of your net revenues and expenditures. So, and you're looking at which number again?
I was looking
The
at the,
260.
yeah, either the 251 or the 289,000. The revenues
Okay.
over
The 200
expenditure.
Yeah, the 261, that's just as a reflection that we probably have not gotten in all of the revenues that we have anticipated yet this year. So it's just saying that we're spending more than so far this year in expenditures than what we've gotten in. So I can look at those in greater detail and get back with you this week
Oh,
if you'd
no,
like me to.
that answers my
Sure.
question. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Checking for further hands. Seeing none, I just had one quick question. I was looking at the County Road 2 roundabout summary at the very end of your information, and I just wanted to make sure I'm reading this correctly. That bold 1.5 million, is that how much is going to be, we anticipate will be left after everything?
That is the difference, the 1.465 million. That's the difference between what we have spent, total expenditures, and the total funds available.
Okay.
So that's the amount of money that's left from all of the funding that we have received up above, which is listed out above.
Right. So that'll theoretically be the amount we have to do whatever we need to do at Silver Peaks and signalization and all that.
Right. It'll be whatever is remaining. Yes, that's what's remaining right now.
Makes sense. I'm looking for any further hands, and seeing none, thank you for your update. Next item on the agenda is action items. The first action item is the smart water meter system proposal. Mr. Staney? You're muted, Steve.
I will ask Mark Johns to review this project with you. And we also have, we did have attendees from the meter company or the meter read company that
I
we're going to
changed
do
them
the
to
PowerPoint
panelists so they
tonight.
could share their PowerPoint.
So Mark, are you available to,
Yes, can everyone hear me?
you're
Yes.
real quiet.
Okay, I'll try to do a little bit better here. So what I've prepared for you, I went out and got 3 bids, which were actually similar bids that were obtained earlier in the year before I started with the town actually, with a smart meter project, which was been in conversations, I believe even into last year, about updating our meter system within town and having a fixed base system, improving the I guess the amount of hours that Public Works utilizes in order to obtain all of the reads, which is roughly a 2-day process for us. This would dramatically reduce the amount of hours that we spend, as well as it gives our customers, which are our residents, the ability to look at their usage from a consumer standpoint. It also gives Public Works and Town Hall the ability to look at detailed usage. I believe it's up to like 140 days worth of data logging that we're able to obtain and kind of talk through with our residents if there's a leak or there's potential issues, maybe what's going on with them. We do have Paul Carroll and Jerry Allman, who are both with Mountain States. They are the company that I am recommending. In my report, I talk about why I'm looking to recommend them. The majority of our system works with their current Itron system that they carry. Financially, it just seems like the most feasible way and the best use of our resources in order to move forward with them. So with that, I know Paul has prepared a presentation that I'll turn it over to him and let him kind of go through that presentation. And at the end, then we can go through questions.
Sounds good.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Paul Carroll. I'm the CEO of Mountain States Pipe and Supply based in Colorado Springs. Also with us this evening is Jerry Ullman, who's our vice president. Jerry, if you can you pull up the PowerPoint for us? So Mountain States is a second generation family business, again, based in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We've been an Itron distributor for over 32 years now. Both Jerry and I have been working together for the past 27 years on smart metering, utility metering, and solutions throughout a very large geographic territory. Our solution to you tonight is the Itron Choice Connect solution. That solution will allow you to continue to use your existing Itron ERT modules that you have. ERT stands for encoder, receiver, transmitter. That module today in the mobile world bubbles up every 6 to 10 seconds. When you go into the fixed network world, you're going to get a read every 6 minutes. You're going to get 24 hours or 24 reads a day. And also the ERT module holds 40 days of hourly data logging. So you can go backwards and be able to get information from that consumer, that customer who says that there's just no way my bill can be that high. We have installed over 150 solutions. Our goal for Lock Buoy is to be complete by the end of the year. So starting early September-ish and then be done by December 31st. Our project manager is Nick Rocca. Nick has been with us for over 10 years and he has installed recently the City of Brighton's Choice Connect Itron system. So you would have a very similar system to what Brighton has. Next slide, Jerry. So again, the endpoints are connected to your meters. The meters transmit the data from the meter registers. We would install CCUs, which stands for collection units, and RPUs are repeaters. So a collector sends the reads back to a hosted site in the cloud that Itron hosts. The repeaters just push that read to a collector, and the collector again is the backhaul. The CCU works with 100 plus endpoints. With 100 W plus endpoints, that again gives you those 40 days of hourly data logging. You have currently some 40 Ws and 60 Ws, and those just give you a read. They don't give you any information. And they also don't work with the fixed network that we're recommending that the town put in. Again, the hosted solution is based out of Liberty Lake, Washington. There are cities all over the country, all over the world that use Itron's hosted, so it's very secure. Also, we've replaced all your existing cast iron lids with what we call a polymer lid. Those polymer lids are manufactured by Nicor out of Montana. The reason for changing out your lids is that cast iron hurts the radio signal. So polymer allows the signal to transmit farther and allows us to get a better result at the end result. We're also recommending your analytics and customer portal by AquaHawk. AquaHawk is based here in Colorado Springs. The reason for the analytics is that you're going to go from 1 read a month to 24 reads a day, times 2,000 plus customers, times 30 days, times 12 months. So it's a lot of information. We want to make sure that information is usable, informative, and means something both from the town aspect as well as your consumers, your customers. So again, the customer portal will allow your customers to be able to log in. They would have a password. The town would have to accept them for that password. And also they would only see their information. They would never see anybody else's information. So that would allow them to be able to look at their consumption, make a change to that consumption before the bill comes out. Also, as well as allow them to see what that bill would look like if I stay on this particular usage pattern day after day, month after month. Okay, Jared.
What are you seeing?
I'm seeing the view utility consumption. So advantage of analytics, identify leaks quickly and notify your customers easily. So again, you would be able to push a message down to your customers to say, oh, by the way, we're seeing this high usage pattern. This is what your bill could potentially look like. You might have a leak. You can't tell them where the leak is, of course, but you're able to let them know they have a leak and then they can instruct an investigation process. Okay.
There's the next one.
The custom portable solution is mostly wide used during custom solution is the water utility marketplace. So AquaHawk is over in 60 utilities. They have a very strong presence. Let's see, you got Castle Rock that has them. Las Cruces, New Mexico has them. They have systems all over Arizona as well as in Colorado. So it allows you to engage a conversation with your customer, also help reduce hopefully time calls or delay of calls so that now you can have that real-time conversation with that customer, asking them, can you log onto your portal? let's look at that at the same time and let's go through this process to help eliminate the usage or the over waste of water, as we all know is scarce in Colorado at this point in time. Next one.
There it is.
Okay, so easy resolve high bill issues, prevent high bill complaints, and proactively notify customers for potential leaks. Here's what the reports look like. This is what a utility dashboard would look like. Customers would be very similar to this. However, you would see the patterns over the last X number of days or number of hours. So this one gives you the 16th, 18th, and 20th. So it's giving you a 2-day view. You could also break it down to an hour view as well too. And you would just see a lot more consumption. The ERT module sends out a consumption message every hour at the top of the hour. So we'll say at 7 o'clock, the read is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That read is consistent all the way to 8 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, it goes to 1, 2, 3, whatever that next read is. So that's why you only see an hourly read. Now, if you went out there with a customer and having a real-time conversation, you could get a read every 6 minutes, but it does upgrade once an hour. However, you could also get the 40 days of hourly data logging while you're having that real-time conversation with that customer while you're out in the field. Again, some examples of more reports. This is also information that if you put in with your bills or your flyers and other things, that they could have all this information, then they can see their usage patterns. Not everybody signs up for a portal. I'm going to be honest with you from that aspect. We get some good adoption and we don't get great adoption. So it just depends on how proactively the town is of pushing this portal, and that will make the success of the portal much better. And AquaHawk, Utility Hawk, AquaHawk can also help with some marketing as well too. Again, replace the cast iron lids so that we can get a better signal out of them. MSPS will install the new lids as part of the proposal, so there's no additional charge for that and everything's included. We'll implement FCS software. You're on an older platform or software called MVRS. FCS stands for Field Collection Software. This is, again, will allow you to go out in the field with a handheld or a mobile collector or a tablet of some sort to be able to go get a read if you need to get a read. Or for some reason you lost a collector for hail, lightning strike, you can always still go get a read out in the field. So you're never out without being able to get a read for a monthly time basis. Let's see, there's no charge for the MVRS to FCS. That's just part of the process. Itron's been trying to get the town and other towns and other cities throughout Colorado to do this for about 2 years. So it's been a slow process of getting this done. However, once we got, Mark came in and started getting involved, we started moving this a lot quicker and getting that done quickly. We will work with you, Lock Buoy and United Power on the power pole requirements and joint utility agreements. And MSPS will use a local vendor to install the equipment. The local vendor who's going to be installing the equipment, Utility Sales and Solutions, also just installed all the collectors and repeaters for the city of Brighton for us as well too. So they're very good at what they do. The interface between the billing and Choice Connect is the download remains the same. So what we mean by an interface, when we get the reads attached to that customer, attached to that account member, we need to make sure they get back to billing correctly, and that's Cassell. So that interface is pretty much done since you already have an Itron MVRS system. So that input file is going to be pretty basic and pretty simple, and we've done it many times. It helps that you're already an Itron customer. That speeds up the process. So we start with a propagation study. Mark gave us all the addresses and assets that are available in the town of Lock Buoy. What we've done is take a map of all those addresses and locations, and from that you get what we call a propagation model. This propagation model shows you where the 2 collectors are going to be, as well as the RPUs or the repeaters. This is called a shapefile. So the shapefile all of a sudden now gives you very bright colors, and we go by the colors, as in the darker the color, the better reception we get. So we feel very comfortable with this, that you're going to get very good reception and get very good response out of the collectors, out of your meters, out of the modules, and your customers will get reliable information all the time, as well as the town. try to keep it sweet, try to keep it easy. It's a a widely used system. XL Energy uses it, Brighton uses it, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Farmington, New Mexico, Deming, New Mexico, Aztec, New Mexico. We have a very similar system in Cody, Wyoming,
Montrose.
Montrose, Colorado. So it's very widely used, and you're not the first one to be using this type of system. Any questions?
May has her hand up. No?
The mayor's
Oh, yeah.
on mute.
I think
There
the
we go.
mayor's having problems.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
I'm good now. Trustee Westcott.
If we could go back to the previous slide, I just have a question about that map. So you said the darker the color, the better the reception. So I'm noticing on that sort of southwest corner of Silver Peaks, there's a lot of yellow. Can you explain to me what that means?
I'm not good at maps, so please help me out. Which direction am I going?
So in the bottom left corner of the map that you provided,
Yes.
just a lot of yellow dots kind of in that
It would
area.
be over. It'd be
It's where
over
it
by
says RPU4.
Right. So we put a repeater in there so that we pick up all those meters.
Okay, so the fact that those are yellow shouldn't be of concern because that repeater is going to help strengthen the signal. Is that
I think
correct?
those yellow modules are older modules that we're going to replace. That's why they show up that way. So it's just,
All of the
it
red
doesn't have anything. Yeah.
All of the red and yellow are older 40 and 60 watt modules that would be replaced as part of the project. So they're all 100 watt plus.
Thank you.
Jerry. Thank you, Trustee.
And before I call on the next person, I just remembered I should note for the record that it appears both. Oh my gosh, my internet is driving me bonkers tonight. I just want to note for the record that Trustee Ott and Trustee Kimberly are now present at the meeting, and I think Trustee Ott had his hand up. So Trustee Ott. Trustee Ott?
Okay, I'm unmuted.
There you go.
What is the yearly increase in the maintenance and other fees that you have listed on the on your presentation?
Mark, would you like us to go through the pricing summary?
We can. I can briefly describe. There's an annual maintenance fee for going to a fixed base system. With all of the units we have, there's an annual maintenance fee for the software as well as the units. If you want, Paul or Jerry could go into that probably a little more detailed, but that's roughly what it is.
You know, my question is, how much is it going to go up every year?
You know, we've been doing this for a long time and we have not seen lots and lots of high increases for Itron. Typically for over the last 20 plus years, Itron has stayed pretty consistent. However, they do have the option of a CPI 2.5 to 3% increase, but it's very rare that they do that.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess this is going to go to the Board of Trustees. We'll have to figure this out later, but it looks to me like the overall cost per household is going to be less than $1 a month. Are we going to just eat this in the water fund or pass it on to the consumers?
This is a budgeted project in the water fund right now for this initial installation.
Right, but I was talking about the maintenance fees and everything are going to cost each citizen about 70 cents a month. So are we going to pass that on to them or what are we going to do?
We haven't determined that yet, but we have a water cost of service study that's going to be implemented this fall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Strack?
I had two points here. So when you break down the whole price for all the citizens, about $110 for the 2,700 meters that we're reading. You know, that's about 22,000 gallons of water. for each residence, which is quite a loss. I'm not sure where I was really going with that. It kind of strikes me as being kind of unreasonable. But so what I really want to know is, as a citizen, if I leave a garden hose on, am I going to be notified? If I have a stool that may be leaking constantly, will I be notified? Will they be able to make some of these determines via saying that most people aren't awake in the middle of the night and they're using lots and lots of water? So I guess I'm kind of asking, what kind of warning system am I going to get as a citizen?
So the iTronsket system that has the ability to give you alarms and alerts and reports that tell you that there's been 24 hours of continuous consumption. With the analytics package, that gets even better with Aquahawk because, again, they're going to see it more quickly than the town will. I'm not trying to be difficult when I say that, because their job is to manage it every day for you. Your job as the town is to help maintain it, make it proactive, fix it when it's broken, and take care of business. So they're going to be able to alert the town. And then if your customer has signed up for the customer portal, they can also alert your customer, your consumer, to saying, you've had 24 hours continuous consumption on the last day, or, we're seeing a lot of consumption between midnight and 5. Why is that? Again, all we're doing is providing the information to both the consumer and to the town, and then the town can, choose what path they would like to go.
So you pick up the abnormality, and then you tell the town, and then the town will notify me. Is that kind of the chain of command?
That is correct.
Okay, so I don't have to just, the town would notify me. I don't just necessarily have to be on that portal every day.
The portal can be used for lots of other things, but no, you do not. But the portal also can be used to push notifications that we're going to do street repair work. We have fire hydrant maintenance work. We're doing street flushing. Whatever you're doing, you can also communicate other things to the consumers, your customers.
All right. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Trustee Westcott?
So before I ask my questions, I just want to state that it's been pretty obvious to me every summer that I see consistently people complaining about their water bills and how is it possible that they have used this much water. And so I am excited about the option to really give customers the option to see this firsthand. I think that can go a long way to assuaging those concerns. Although it's not going to be, people will still be fussing. But the other thing is given our report last meeting about the 25% increase in our water usage over last year, I think that this is also important to help us identify maybe why and how we're using so much more water. So I guess along those lines, my question is, do you have data does this actually contribute to conservation in towns that install it, water conservation in towns that install it? And do customers actually see a decrease in their water bills because they can be more responsive? Do you have data on that?
We can get you some information on that. Actually, we're kind of doing a similar application for the city of Farmington because they're very similar to you today. They read your system mobily. They want to go to a network. They're trying to fund it by water conservations. City of Aspen's kind of doing the same thing as well too. We typically do see usage patterns go down at the very beginning. And then depending on that customer, that usage pattern can stay down. But we also do see a number of customers, once they kind of get used to it, the bills continues to creep up. So it's all about how you want to promote conservation and how you want to use that customer portal. But if there is a trade-off, there definitely is at the very beginning decrease because everybody's like, okay, Big Brother's watching me, my bill, I want to fix it, I want to be good. And then all of a sudden the hose is running or you're seeing the water go down the street or the sprinkler's broken and then they're gone for 2 weeks and it's been raining every day. So it's a process and the town will be a big part of that process of pushing conservation as much as you can. It's up to that consumer to make that decision.
Thank you.
You bet.
Trustee Ott?
Yeah, this is in response to what Trustee Strock said. and his flow of information. I ran the demo, took the video on the demo, and it looks to me like if you set up the alerts, you're notified directly, not through the town, that you have a water consumption usage problem. Am I missing that? In other words, the town doesn't get notified. I get notified directly that there's a water usage problem if I set my parameters up correctly on the website.
That is correct. I mean, the town every morning when you come into the office, the first things you do is you look at how is the network working? Am I having any network problems? And then run your reports for the day. And you can see I have a tamper, I have a cut cable, I have 24 hours of continuous consumption and some other alerts. The customer portal and the analytics is to push that information to your consumer without your intervention, so that when they wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, if they log onto the portal, they will get that message.
So they get the same message, but I get the message directly. Is that the way I'm reading it?
Correct. It still goes through the Itron network. It comes down to Aquahawk, and then from Aquahawk direct to you.
All right, that's what I want to make sure. It doesn't have to be through the town. I may get the notification before the town does.
That's correct. I mean, because you can get it on a Saturday and Sunday, or you can get it at midnight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. Stamey?
So for Mr. Carroll, would the customer get an alert on their mobile phone, or do they have to log in?
They can
Like,
get
could they get an alarm?
They can get a text on their mobile phone.
Okay.
Cool.
Again, assuming that the customer gives us their cell phone.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else checking for further hands? And I would just, as my comments, echo what Trustee Westcott said. I've seen a lot of people asking for this kind of system for a number of months and years now. So it's exciting that we might actually be able to get this out and usable in time for next sprinkling season. And hopefully it does lend to conservation and, more importantly, gives people access to real-time information so that they're not surprised by a bill at the end of every month. And if they are, they can start to use this system so that they can monitor day to day what they're using. And with that, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the smart water meter system as proposed.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Trustee Strock and a second from Trustee Westcott. Roll call, please.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly. Yes, he's okay. He can't get unmuted. Let's see if I can help him. Maybe.
Oh, I'm unmuted. I'm a yes.
Okay. Trustee Morris,
Yes.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Ott,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 7-0. Thank you for your presentation, gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Johns, for getting all of that lined up and worked out.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good evening. We'll jump off
You
now.
bet.
Okay. The next item is action item 8B, which was the ratification of the amendment to the agreement with Weld County. Clerk Blackston. Or Steve, one or the other.
So Weld County has received a little over $1 million for this community development block grant program. And previously we had entered into an IGA with the other communities in Weld County. And so Weld County has been notified they need to amend that IGA. So this request is to amend that original IGA. And Weld County had a fairly short turnaround to get this back to them. So that's why this is in front of you again tonight.
Okay, questions or comments from anyone? Looking for virtual hands.
It just allows us to participate in this program if we have a project that may be eligible.
As I was going to just clarify, all it is essentially allows us to participate, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm not seeing any hands, so I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Weld County and the town of Lochbuie.
Could I just make one clarification and be to
Yeah.
approve, I guess to ratify the original, let's re-ratify the original agreement and then to approve the amendment.
Okay, I move to approve the original IGA between the town of Lochbuie and Weld County.
Second.
Okay, so I have a
And the
motion to, yeah, I have a motion to ratify the original and approve the amended. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I have a motion from Trustee Ott and a second from Trustee Morris. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lothrin,
Yes.
Trustee Strock. Trustee Strock. Maybe.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Morris.
Yep.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is discussion item 9A, the roundabout update. Mr. Eddy.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
All right. Do you have the agenda visible to all of you?
Yes. At least I think
Okay.
most of us have it in front of us, yeah.
Okay. So first off, apologize if you weren't able to get an update last month. I was scheduled to be the presenter at the late meeting in July, and then I had a conflict arise. So it's possible that this information presented tonight spans 2 months of change from the last time I presented to you, but so be it. The payments to date as of August 13th, $1,878,000 plus dollars. That is roughly 77% of the original project budget. The original project budget is $2,451,000 plus, and could be presenting this for the first time this evening, but we are projecting overspending the allocated budget for the project by, approximately $115,000 or 4.7%. That's not all that unusual, but I wanted to point that out. The schedule, we have exhausted 172 calendar days, approximately 73% of the contract time count. There have been no additional time extensions executed in July or August. So that leaves us at 194 days, calendar days, or what have been provided for the project to be completed. The completion date is slated for Friday, September 4th. September 4th will be a non-working day because of the Labor Day holiday weekend. And that is the latest date in which the contractor can achieve substantial completion. Substantial completion will be defined that by all original bid item work is complete, the traffic is in final configuration. At the point of substantial completion, the contract provides for an additional 30 days to address punch list items. These are very minor in comparison to the main items of work. And we will be doing a punch list walkthrough in 2 weeks before Labor Day weekend and establish that punch list for which they have 30 days to complete. Key milestones for the project. Phase 3, again, talked about completion on September 4th. We did recently have a very significant construction activity and wanted to extend on behalf of everybody involved appreciation for your support for a pretty significant road closure over the span of a weekend. And that the road was opened yesterday, and our objective was to make sure that that closure did not impede the opening of school today. So that, I think that's pretty much summarizes my notes. Again, the other thing I like to always point out is that zero work zone traffic accidents. That's something we always strive for.
Cool.
Any-
Questions or comments from the board? Looking for virtual hands. Trustee Strap.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to when we talked to Denise at the beginning. So we were $1.465 million left in our County Road 2 widening and roundabout budget. And you're saying we're $115,000 over budget. So I'm asking if that amount is coming out of this 1.4 million.
Yes, it would need to.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or seeing no other virtual hands? Thank you very much for the update and thank you for keeping that project pretty much on track. It looks like we've only lost about 14 days in the whole thing. So that's awesome.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion item 9B, the budget discussion. Yay. Mr. Stamey.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. And Denise will jump in here as well. And let me just go ahead and put so this is our first draft of the 2021 budget. And over the course of the next few months, we'll have several other both internal staff work sessions as well as work sessions with the board and present updates to the board. The primary target is to have our a complete draft done by the October, I believe it's the October 6th board meeting. We will still have meetings after that and we'll have some ability to modify that budget with our adoption date scheduled for December 1st. So again, this is our calendar. I would note if you can handwrite on your calendar, make a note. I think the November 10 board meeting, that will be November 17. That'll be a regular meeting night. And we would like to, if there are other, if the board has preference for meetings, we'd like to either schedule these at the tail end of a regular meeting, or we could schedule an interim budget meeting work session on the interim Tuesday nights. I don't know if the board has a preference of how we do that. We'd like to have that input tonight as well.
Let me pause you right there, Steve, and I'll check for hands. I know my preference would be to tack it on to board meetings where we can, but if anyone is opposed to that and would prefer to have it on off nights, please raise your virtual hand now and make your voice heard. Trustee Westcott?
I would, having never participated in this process before, about how much time would that add on to the evening meetings?
It probably varies. So in the past, we've actually broken up some of the budget, like one night where we might just do general fund, and the next work session, we might just do water and wastewater. So to kind of break up that time commitment for the board. And I would say also, if board members have specific questions about the budget, you could contact either Denise or me, and we'd be happy to give you, answer questions as we're going through this process as well. So I guess, I would plan on it might add maybe an hour to a board meeting. It could be an hour discussion. And we'll get a feel tonight. I think this will give you a good introduction of the types of things that the board reviews and considers during the budget process. I'd also like to point out that something different this year, that Denise will be preparing a budget notebook for each board member. And it'll be really a handy tool for board members to refer to and keep track of this progression through the budget. So it'll be a good information document for you to work with.
If I could jump in, my recommendation would be to have a dedicated work session. Sometimes if you tack it on at the end of a meeting, people are kind of burned out at that point, and it may not be as productive as a meeting as you may have hoped for. And I've just found in my years of doing this that when you have one night and it's dedicated just to budget, people can just focus and it goes a lot quicker. It seems to have better results. So that's just my 2 cents worth, is just to have a dedicated a night to do it. And I think that is part of the reason why I had put that November 10th on there, knowing that we aren't going to have a meeting on November 3rd due to the election. And then November 10th would be the off meeting between that meeting and the regular board meeting on the 17th. So I think now I'm remembering why I put that date in the proposed schedule, so that it could be more of a work session rather than a board meeting. So.
Since I think we were planning to make November 17th a work session for the budget and not a regular meeting, because there's likely to be uncertainty. It is unlikely that they will have certified the election results by then. And we were a little uncomfortable with the old board meeting, and we couldn't make the new board meet yet because they wouldn't be certified to sit. So we were just going to make it a work session with both the old and new board present to weigh in, if that works for you, Denise.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor. Last year I found it really helpful, as still someone who was fairly new, to do our dinner and budget conversation like we did. But I think there's something to be said for that being like a gathering where we're face to face. And so if we were at a place where we could do a face-to-face, something like that, I would be in support of a separate meeting. But if it's virtual, given like juggling to set households so that you can be on a computer and be as uninterrupted as possible, my preference would be to tack it on to the end of a board meeting.
Okay, Trustee Morris.
Yeah, my preference would be to do a separate work session just so that we can come prepared for just that one main item. I'm usually pretty fried at the end of board meeting. I'm happy to do it at the end of board meeting if that's what we do, but if we're taking preferences, mine is to just do a separate work session, and then I'll chime in with what Trustee Jeffrey said, and my preference would be to do it in person too.
So do you want to set a September, maybe a September 8 or 22nd work session?
Speaking for myself, yeah, the latter one in September.
Yeah, I think we say September 22nd. If that doesn't work for someone, please raise your virtual hand now. And seeing no objection, so I think you have to go ahead for a September 22nd work session, Steve.
Okay. Does that work for you, Denise?
Yep, that should be fine.
Let's start with that, and then maybe at the conclusion of that meeting, we can finalize the next work session. Does that work for the board?
It does.
Okay. So this next slide shows it's basically a summary of each of the funds: the general fund, conservation trust fund, which is our parks and open space fund, water and sewer. And this just shows our current budget, what the budget was, what the current forecast is for each of those. funds in terms of balances, revenues, expenditures, and our forecast ending balance compared to the original budget amount. I would note that you might recall when we started this process a few months ago, Denise had noted that there was a discrepancy in the audit was not carried forward in our budget year when she was working on the audit. So the general fund and the conservation trust fund are affected in the beginning balances. But we've made up good ground in our general fund and the conservation trust fund to recover that kind of error, and where our ending balances are going to be close to what we had in our original budget. So a lot of our the other
Steve, you got a question on that one, Trustee Westcott?
Okay.
I'm sorry, this was actually, I just want to put the meeting on my calendar for the 22nd. Is that at 6:30 then? Sorry,
Yes.
stupid question. Thank you.
Nope, good question. Yeah, we'll stick with 6:30. Especially if we're hoping to roll it in person, because I think that's going to be the earliest Trustee Jeffrey could probably make it work now that she's traveling from Greeley.
I could
Okay,
be there
and
earlier, but that's good.
Okay. Steve, before you move on to the next slide, I did have one quick question. Is the difference in the ending balance for the water fund, that big jump there is because we didn't do the water tank this year when we had initially anticipated it, right?
Well, so we had, that's correct. That was the primary difference. And also remember we had the $3 million water CIP, which we discussed, and we decided, or it was a water CIP reserve. So that was not expended. Our choice was to carry that over into 2021.
Right. I just wanted to make sure I was following. Okay. Go ahead.
So a lot of our revenues, both in general fund and permit fees, as well as in our water and wastewater fund, were from our planned investment fees. Those are all revenues in those funds. I think originally in 2020, we had forecast those budget items on approximately 120 dwelling units, which was our forecast of speaking with builders. And then when some of the land deals did not occur, we're forecasting right now 12 homes in 2020. This is our forecast from speaking with the builders, and these developments are forecast for what we see for 2021. So our organizational chart, I'd point out in 2020, we hired a new finance director, which has been a really good move for us. We have done some restructuring in the front office of the utility billing clerk to based on skill sets of a person we're hiring, combining some of those other duties with utility billing clerk. And then in the police department, there's a records and evidence technician. Proposed in 2021 is perhaps a planner in the admin side, an equipment operator in public works. I think internally in staff, we'll discuss maybe some other options in staffing of what this planning position, if we add a position, what that may be and what other responsibilities might be able to be incorporated into that position. So in this draft budget, it's noted that our last compensation study was in 2019. We've been trying to update that every 2 years. We will implement the performance appraisals in 2021. For our budget planning purposes, we have a proposed 4% merit increase, and that number is included in this draft budget. There are funds included for a town administrator selection process and transition around mid-March. We did have mandatory requirements to increase contributions to the police retirement and the public employee retirement funds. We're not proposing to change the benefit amount, which is currently a cafeteria plan for employees, which is $750 a month, which must first be used towards health insurance and then other insurance options. If there's any remaining balance for that employee, that then goes into a 457 plan. Denise has worked a lot on reallocating our time allocations based upon where employees are more accurately spending their time by fund. So you will see some time allocations and salary allocations to the legislative fund, for example, this year, which will, or in 2021, which will reflect like the town clerk, assistant clerk, and some of my time as well. So this shows the
Before you,
impact.
wait. Steve,
Yeah, sure.
Before you move on, I think Larry had a question on that slide.
Okay.
No, I didn't. Well, you know, I kind of did. I just wanted to comment that, you know, it seems to me over the years, when we've kind of dispersed our finances between the water, sewer, and general fund, that just for the sake of brevity, we've just split them 33, 33, and 33. And I certainly think Denise is right on top of trying to maybe pin those percentages down a little bit more. Trying to say that maybe the water department will have to take on a little more responsibility.
Yeah, that's correct.
Than they do. So, all right.
So we spent staff time and going through a couple of iterations of kind of this allocation.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
And are there any other questions? I'm checking for virtual hands since that slide had a lot of proposals in it. If anyone has any quick questions at this point. Nope, you can go ahead, Steve.
Okay. So this shows an impact of the this 4% merit increase by fund. 45,000 in general fund, 10 in water, and 7,000 sewer, for a total of 62,700. And I would point out for new board members that the general fund includes our police department as well, which is a big, really the big cost center for our general fund. But it includes public works and then the admin functions. So our capital projects that are proposed, the first one is our I-76. This is a signalization project. This is a total project cost of $1,750,000. And this was a project that Trustee Strzok and I worked on through both the Weld Forum and the Adams County Council of Governments, and then the DRCOG organization. So the split is the town of Lochbuie over a 2-year period has a local fund contribution of $200,000. CDOT will put in $150,000. And then each from the Weld Forum and the Adams County COG, there's $700,000 each from that. So again, the total project cost for that is $1,750. We would start the project engineering design after the first of the year. We're currently working with the Division 1 CDOT office to do the initial step, which is an IGA. We hope to get that done this fall so we can then start with the design work after the first of the year. Our trail project, this was intended to be what we called the Lochbuie Greenway Trail, would extend from County Road 37. It would follow the utility corridor, which is our open space corridor as well. And it would extend west of there to as far as we can get into the Berkshire Silver Peaks area, that we can get the best connection to the new elementary school. That project is estimated at $900,000 it requires a 50% match from the town. So we're trying to break that up again into 2 budget years where we would start the design of the project after the first of the year. We would start the construction then probably in the year of 2022. So that's how we're trying to split that up. We have Silver Peak's elevated water storage tank, and the $3,500,000 is not the total cost of that water tank. We would finish up the design of the water tank. We would finish up the site acquisition, and then we would do the bid and proposals to build the water plant. This project is a little time dependent on what happens with Silver Peak's development. We've been told that D.R. Horton intends to close on both Silver Peaks East and the remaining part of Silver Peaks, the undeveloped part, this fall. And we've also been told by D.R. Horton that they intend to do a re-subdivision of the north half to do some different layout. So when they're doing that new layout, that's when we would work with D.R. Horton to select the appropriate site for the water tank, as well as a potential new water treatment plant in the future. You know, we have a kind of a preferred area in Silver Peaks, but the site has not been selected and the town does not own the site yet. So along with the water tank, there's we have installed oversized water lines in Silver Peaks. I believe it's a 16-inch water line. We would need to extend this new water line to connect to the new water tank as well. So part of it's through Silver Peaks, part of it's through an off-site area. So that's why you see the 2 different numbers. I guess it's 20-inch line. So that's the same project, but in 2 different locations. We had looked at in the past, we've discussed a potential interconnect with Brighton. That could be for an emergency if we had to have a backup water supply, or for, so we've discussed with Brighton in the past. We probably need to renew that discussion, but we just have an idea for an interconnect with Brighton, which would be a secondary water supply if we had a problem with the town's water system for some reason. We have the construction of the deep water well again in 2021. We're going to try and do the design of that water well this fall. So we have some pricing from both our water attorney and water engineer of what that would cost to get that through the design process. In our see here. So in our wastewater projects, we have demolition. So next year, this would be our the demolition of the modular office that's at that site now and construct a new building. We intend to go out for RFPs for the design of that building this fall. There are some site improvements, both for the access to the plant access, parking, and then for a dewatering pad, which Mr. Ramey has discussed. So let me go back. Are there questions on this so far?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Any questions on the capital projects page from anyone? Checking for hands now. Trustee Strott.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the water budget. To me, I think the construction of that deep water well is one of the most important of all those things for next year. So I think we should pay attention to that. So thank you.
Anyone else? Not seeing any further hands, and I just wanted to note that especially for our two new members. Everything on this capital project list is something that we've been discussing for at least a year or better. So it's pretty consistent with where the board has been and had intended to go in 2021.
And we
Anyone
do
else?
with Wayne Ramey does a 5-year CIP plan for us for both water and wastewater. So we bring that forward every year. And so that we just, keep all these projects, and we keep, if they aren't done, we place them in the next year then.
Okay. And I don't, Trustee Westcott.
I guess I just want to comment that, one of the other things that I hear consistently from town committee members is a desire for recreational amenities within the town. And I realize that we're growing really fast, and so infrastructure really has to be a priority. But I guess I'm sort of just wondering, in terms of the planning that's gone on previous, are we looking at doing anything besides the trails in terms of that? Or I know at one point I remember there was talk about doing a splash pad. I don't know if that's a capital project or not, but I thought I'd just ask.
That would be. So our board, knowing the cost of doing a rec center, the board has done agreements with both City of Brighton and City of Fort Lupton to allow residents to join those facilities at a resident fee.
And I can just quickly piggyback on that. What you're probably referring to, May, is I think it was last year, maybe the year before, at Fall Fest, we had done some proposals for potential park improvements at the skate park. And one of the ideas was a splash pad, as well as some other things. They're all things that we hope to do in the future, but it ended up being far more than we could reasonably fit into our budget right now. And Steve, when we get to the actual budget work session, you're going to see the numbers a little more clearly, but our general fund revenue is actually significantly lower than you would ever imagine. So it makes fitting those kind of projects in very difficult unless we have significant grant funding coming from somewhere else. So I guess one potential thing to look at in 2021 or future years for those of you who are planning to run on the upcoming election is getting more of those types of grants so that we can get some of those projects done.
Okay, thank you.
And anyone else? Okay, Steve, you can go ahead.
So the next items are, you can see broken down by fund. So there would be 2 additional police vehicles with lease purchase. Chief has briefly touched on that with the board. We're looking at an additional public works vehicle, buying some equipment for those public works vehicles and a mower. In the water, again, continuing improvements to our water treatment plant with pump replacement and the membrane replacement. In our sewer fund, the projects for equipment would be a dump truck that assists with the dewatering process, a skid loader for, again, part of the dewatering and biosolid process, some controls for the operations of the plant, and then mixers, and then the big item is the blowers. And I don't know if Wayne has been able to join yet tonight. He texted me earlier, said he was going to be, he was running late. He was going to try to sign on.
I haven't seen his name pop up.
So if Wayne is not able to join us tonight, we would, again, go in more detail of those specific equipment items for water and wastewater. Okay. So street management, we're proposing $450,000 for that. So one of the items we'd like to do is an updated street management plan, which will be an evaluation of every street in town and give recommendations for what type of improvements each street should receive and the schedule for those improvements. The last one we did was back in 2014, which we've used as our guide over the last 6 years for street improvements. It's time to update that. Typically that's done about every 5 years. But just make sure that we're doing the right processes on the streets and when we should be doing them by year. We'll also continue with, again, the crack seal, slurry seal. This budget may include things like a traffic calming project if we have a request for that or a need for that. And we will come back again with this fall with a map showing specific streets, which we initially would intend to work on.
Any questions from anyone on streets? Not seeing any, you can move forward, Steve.
So on the board, in the legislative department, and this is where the board should also look at, but we did include training for the board. That's like the CML conference and Southeast Well meetings and Adams County meetings, Dr. Cog meetings. Without knowing where to go with this, we did include an amount for town events. There are memberships for board and various organizations that board participates in, and also an amount for the home rule election. So these can be modified. I would think the training should be, I think the area I would look at is what do we do with this town event item? And obviously if home rule election does not occur, then that 8,000 would be available to move into another item there.
Questions on this legislative one? Trustee Westcott?
I don't think this is, well, yes. I remember that there had been in the 2020 budget, I believe there was funding to hire some sort of an event manager to help plan some of those town events. And that because of COVID, we decided not to do that. Am I remembering that right? And I guess my question.
Correct. I had received a proposal from an event, special event contractor. That was interested in helping us stage events in the town. And so that was, obviously we didn't do that because of the impact of events with COVID. But we would try and pick that up next year, assuming we can do events and try and engage that party again.
Did that answer your question, Trustee Westcott?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if that was sort of included in that $32,000. So yes.
Okay, anyone else? I would just add my 2 cents that I think this looks pretty good and kind of looks like home rule might be going the way of the birds again this year, unless a lot of people pick up packets in the next couple of days. But I would really love to see those town events come back, and maybe that farmers market that Trustee Strack talked about last meeting and a couple of others chimed in on. Be great to see us come out of COVID and take a renewed effort at trying to get some town events going again.
Sure.
However we can do that. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands. You can move forward.
So that, again, board direction, future work sessions, questions. These will all be, as we have each work session, that's all those questions are, will be available to go through.
Okay.
So so does the board have anything specific that you want us to try and look at including this year?
So I was just going to check. Hands for anyone that has anything they would like to see added to this list, taken away from this list. Other priorities Steve should be looking at. Trustee Jeffrey?
Thank you. I'm trying to look back through. Did you talk about Lake Henry at all? And I just want to refresh my memory on what we were thinking in regards to that project.
We didn't include Lake Henry this year. Lake Henry was a potential project when we had our kind of our CIP reserve fund. The board decided, I think, that we had other water CIP projects that were probably more critical that we do right now, like the water tank and then the deep water well. I think those were the priority projects to look at, and to move Lake Henry out a couple years in the future. That's what I remember.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking too. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something. You know, also back to Trustee Westcott's comment earlier and that reminder of our increased water usage. I want to make sure we are staying ahead of that need. Thank you,
Right.
Steve.
Yeah, and maybe you just said this, Steve, but I might have missed it. I think another factor we were considering into that was kind of wrapping some of those anticipated Lake Henry costs into the water rate study that's coming up so that we could see what kind of impact that might have if we tried to make that a project. Am I right in that?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Trustee Strock?
I know we had talked earlier about not spending a lot of conservation trust money this year, but I wonder if we could think about maybe a community garden and maybe pick up some of the costs for the water for that, and build some material to build some boxes above the ground and some dirt and stuff. It might be pretty nice to have all the people get together and do that. I see community gardens in other places, even downtown Denver on Colorado Boulevard, and they seem to be a great place for people to kind of get together and grow food, you know. So just another thought. Wouldn't be expensive.
Maybe that's where we use that home rule money if we don't end up going forward with it.
Certainly. Thank you.
Trustee Westcott?
More, I think, a question of curiosity. I know that we had been in talks about planning the potential for a library, and I don't see anything about this. Did it die? Has it died and it's not going to be in the future?
The short answer to that question, and I'll let Steve chime in too, and maybe Maureen if she has anything, is we are waiting for a summary memo from our library attorney about where we're at with that. I would say it is not dead, but it is dead for now, in part because both Hudson and High Plains weren't giving us great reception in the last meeting we had with them. And the last meeting we had with them was literally the Thursday before COVID shut down the world. And things have only gotten worse since then in terms of their own finances. So I would say library in 2021 is probably not something that's going to be on either of their radars, let alone ours. I think that's probably something that's more, once the economy is back and humming a little bit, we might want to start prodding them again to get that done. Is that fair, Steve and Maureen, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. And I think that the last meeting we had indicated that we probably would need to be spending some money to get them to get in line with us on that. And maybe then COVID hit and, you know, funding became a little more uncertain. And so it has, as the mayor said, died. And we are awaiting a memo from the attorney who specializes in library law, who is working with us on that, who I will ding to make sure we get here in the next few days. I mean, ping.
And I feel good to know that there's such a thing as library law in the world.
It's
Library law is complicated in Colorado, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? I'm not seeing any further hands, so I think you kind of have your go ahead to start drafting a budget with the information you presented tonight.
Yeah, and I will just put our draft budget up and just kind of just scroll through that so the board can get a flavor of some changes in format and things we're doing this year. So you will this will be part of your budget notebook that you will get. And so again, this is broken up in terms of revenues. So these are revenue sources. Actually, our property tax is an important part, and our sales tax with the, you know, we said earlier that we're probably fortunate that we didn't have the large retail center this year because our internet sales tax has increased a lot. So our forecast revenues in the tax source is a little bit higher next year than we forecast this year. Again, our fees from utility companies, license and permits, our building permit, that's where the general fund, if you look at the fourth line down, you know, we had a budget of about 235,000, ended up, our forecast is around 93,000 this year. These are the HUTF is through state of Colorado, as well as the cigarette tax. Chief typically gets some training reimbursements and some of the DUI enforcement grants. General fund, again, fees. So I'd note that the school contribution fee, we collect that, that's held in a dedicated fund. It's then at some point transferred to the school district for typically brick and mortar construction. So we do have revenue with our contract for police services with Keensburg, and also the school resource officer with the school district. We'll have to monitor those to see if those may be impacted either in the future. So the expenditures then, again, legislative, that's the board functions. And the addition here is some staff time incorporated into this budget. Also some staff time for court included in judicial. Administration funds. So one of the things that Denise has done is and you will have in your notebooks, she's done backup summary tables for by and large all of these funds that shows what in detail what's expended under each fund. The police operations. This is public works. Again, the street budget is the big item about middle of the right side.
Boom.
This shows our street bond interest and principal payments. And again, it shows we have a positive beginning and ending fund balance in the general fund. Conservation Trust Fund. And again, this fund is, the income for this fund is generated from lottery ticket sales. And that's the source of revenue. Our water fund, again, showing the history of 18 through 2021. Again, you can see our the planned investment fee, the water PIFs on this item, where this year it's going to be about 10% of what our initial forecast was. And the water fund expenditures, both in the admin and operations. Then at the end of that, there's the both the ending fund balances. Then the wastewater fund. Again, similar, the operations, the collections. And I would point out to the board that every year under our collections, we do approximately 1/3 of the wastewater lines in terms of videoing and cleaning. And then we come back and repair lines that the video shows of any lines that are in some that need, that need some repair work. So that's how that all works together. And again, our ending fund balances are all in positive funds. So this is the document that the board adopts, and this will be updated, at our work sessions, and we'll go through this in more detail. So I don't know if there are questions on.
Checking to see Trustee Strock.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this a lot on the sewer collection PIFs.
Yes.
I'm wondering why they're so low, because Brighton seems to be just burning barns over there.
So it's what goes into Brighton, and we have not, let me look at this. We probably haven't included any reimbursement from South BB Draw into this budget, Trustee Strock.
Okay. Thank you.
That's probably too big a question for tonight, but an update on what is going on with our attempts to get that money to come straight to us rather than into escrow with them anymore would be nice at the work session, Steve.
Correct. And so the last communication we had with the South BB Draw escrow agent was that they needed to, this has been several months ago, there was still a balance to pay for their carrying costs of that loan. And then we need to amend that IGA through our sewer board to allow for that payment to come directly to the town of Lochbuie. So that's another step in a meeting we need to schedule with the city of Brighton.
And one we probably should try and get done before the end of several of our terms, since many of us have been following that for a while, and you're going to have a lot of new board members next year.
Correct. And I think their new city manager starts in mid-September, I believe.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board on that We'll go through all of that in a lot more detail at the work session, but that was a pretty good overview of what it looks like when we start to talk about the nitty gritty. I'm not seeing any further hands, so I think, did you have anything else, Steve?
No, I don't at the moment. But I do have one kind of budget related item I'd like to discuss. So I think we reported here a few meetings ago that we were through Weld County. Let me get my notes here. Let's see. So you probably heard about this CARES Act program. And so Weld County received their CARES Act fund distribution. And through that, Lock Buoy is eligible for Weld County has made an allocation for Lock Buoy of a total of $317,353. Half of that is available at this time for us to start making requests for reimbursement for, and that's $158,676. And I was on a DOLA meeting last week, and the DOLA directors really was urging communities to get their allocations spent. So he's asking for us to actively start submitting requests for expenditures of this fund. So we have looked at a couple of options, and one I'd like to run by the board tonight is upgrade of the town's IT system and network. And this would include iPads for the board, which would include the purchase and then setting up and some training for the board members on how they would connect to the town network and how you would use those in a board meeting. That has an estimated cost of $9,540. Then we're looking at a e-ticket system for the police department to reduce the amount of contact they would have when they're having writing a ticket with traffic violation. So this would be an e-ticket where it could all be done on their phone, and there would be one signature on their phone, which the phone could be wiped, and they would have a small printer. They could print the ticket out and hand that for the citation in the field. So it'd be a process to be more efficient and also reduce that personal contact. That has an estimated cost of, let me go back here. So that has an estimated cost of $15,000. The third item would be IT infrastructure upgrades, which is a cost of about $87,000. And these are upgrades that we would plan on doing over the next 2 to 3 years. Our thought is if we have the ability to do this right now with grant money, it makes fiscal sense for us to do that. It's a lot less impact on our general fund, water fund, and wastewater fund. And then remote workstations for staff that can do remote work, and that's about $18,640. So if we proceed with that, the amount is $130,172, and we have $158,676 that's available for us to make this first request on. So we'd like to get consensus from the board. It would authorize us to go ahead and do this kind of equipment order and get this request submitted.
Okay, before I dive into thoughts on that, I think Trustee Westcott had her hand up prior to this.
I feel like I'm always asking my questions like 10 minutes later than I should be. So I apologize to that. But this goes back to the discussion about BB Draw. And I really am just curious about how special districts work. And so I would just like a recommendation of who I should reach out to in order to get that information or to get educated about that.
So probably, yeah, and the South BB Draw Metro District is a pretty big operation. They wear a lot of different hats and have a lot of things under their jurisdiction. Maureen, do you want to, maybe we could talk at one of our.
I was just going to say, why don't we do like a mini primer on that at our budget work session, like a 5 or 10 minute rundown on what they are, and especially the ones that are relevant to our work.
Okay.
Happy to.
And then in terms of the CARES Act stuff that Steve was just talking about, does anyone have any objections to any of the things Steve listed there? Trustee Strock?
I'm in agreement with all that. I'm kind of wondering, there's a need for some of our children or older people to kind of get caught up with this IT technology. I mean, can we do something to make sure all the kids are hooked up to so that they can learn, and even the teachers too? I know
Well,
that.
so we've, and I have some pricing, but we've looked at a way to set up, a couple different ways to set up a hotspot or two through Verizon in town. We have not gotten confirmation from DOLA that that is an eligible expense for us to get reimbursed for.
Okay, all right.
And we did look, and we got a cost from WANRAC to connect to their fiber line, and all of us choked when we got that cost. I didn't even write it down right now. It was totally out of our ballpark.
Oh dear. Okay.
We're gonna, yeah. So.
Okay. Anyone else have Anyone else have thoughts or comments or objections to Steve's proposed IT solutions for the first part of our CARES money? Speak now or forever hold your peace, because I think they're planning to move forward with that as soon as they can if they get to go ahead tonight. I am seeing no hands. I think you're good to go, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Was that on the budget for tonight?
It is.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is staff reports. Chief McCoy.
Good evening, board and mayor. So I want to apologize first for the first couple sentences on my monthly report. I should have read it better. It doesn't really make any sense. Guess that's what happens sometimes. But when you just change a letter over, when you write over the top of your last one. But what that's supposed to talk about is how we're about 80 calls for service lower in June than we were previous year at the same time, but that we've still been pretty active, and fortunately we haven't seen really an increase in any violent crime in our town, which I think is positive. So I just kind of wanted to point that out a little bit. We've got we bought 2 speed signs, the digital speed signs. You've probably seen the one that we have. It's kind of mobile. We move it around. And then we also have a speed trailer that's been back out the last couple of days that needed to be repaired, but we've got that fixed and it's working now. So we have 2 mobile signs. The 2 that we just purchased are actually going to be more permanent. They're a little bit larger. They're a little bit harder to move. So we're thinking about putting those on 168 in both directions, because I think that's going to be potentially a pretty good speedway, and then utilize the other 2 and move them around in different places. So you'll see those. We've got those. We're working with Mark in Public Works, so that he's going to have to get some more heavy duty poles and try to figure out how we can put those up. So you'll be seeing those in the next couple of weeks, I think. Other than that, I don't really have any highlights to give you. It's been pretty uneventful for us lately, so that's good. And welcome, Mr. Kemmerly. I don't think I met you, so welcome, and hopefully I get a chance to speak with you sometime. And if there's any questions, I'll open it up.
Okay. Checking for virtual hands for questions or comments for Chief. Trustee Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Chief. Thanks for the report. There are 2 things that I wanted to ask you about tonight. One, somebody was looking through the minutes of our last meeting and saw the word Tesla, and that sort of has blown up on Nextdoor. I would just greatly appreciate, if we're going to move in that direction, us having some very clear communication about why it would be a cost-effective option, what the thoughts are around it, how I feel you're very thoughtful in how you explained it to us, but I want us to be prepared to speak about it correctly to constituents if they reach out to us. So first and foremost, I wanted to just bring that up. Second of all, I've heard from quite a few people, especially as we're getting ready with kids heading back to school and everything. How does it work to set a speed limit in a neighborhood? Because I'm hearing from a lot of folks as our neighborhoods are getting pretty crowded with vehicles, especially as a lot of people have maybe been home more than other times due to the pandemic, that 25 might be too fast. Can you just give us a little primer on how that's decided, if we have any flexibility, what we would need to do if that's your purview, or would that go to a traffic study that we've talked about in the past? Sorry to ramble. Thank you.
Oh, let me start with the Tesla thing. So I'm still researching. As a matter of fact, I get it for an overnight test drive. I go pick it up tomorrow. I'm going to have it for a couple days. That ought to be fun. I'm going to take it to the folks that upfit our cars to find out about how feasible it is for them to put the police equipment in and put a cage in it so that we can have the prisoner, the officer safe from the prisoner in the back, because it's a pretty small car. But like I told you last meeting when I was mentioning it, we're talking about this vehicle costing the same or less than what we pay for a regular police car, and saving up to $3,500 a year on fuel and maintenance costs. So that's really the only reason I'm looking for it. But also, I mentioned that the optics on it are going to be something that people are going to, it's going to be an eye popper when they hear about it, when they see it, the whole deal. So I think education is really important. I didn't want to put anything out there yet because we're just in the fact-finding stages of it, is the way I view it. So I don't know that I wanted to, because I think we'll put in information through Facebook. I think we'll put it in the newsletter. I think we'll do all of that, and to try with commentary about what it costs and how much it saves us. If we and maybe I should just go ahead and do that anyway. Say, hey, we're researching this thing. This is why. And maybe we'll do that, or maybe we'll do that sooner than later. But yeah,
Chief,
I just hadn't. Yep.
I just wanted to poke in there. It wasn't any of the board members that put that out there. It was actually a very diligent citizen who caught the one sentence summary in the minutes and went from there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I understand that. Yeah, I'd heard this. I had heard the same thing. So, I understand. I didn't think that. I'm certain that the board members were on board with what we said, but I can certainly put something together, and maybe I should go ahead and start. We can post that more sooner than later, so I can make people understand that what we're doing is fiscally responsible and not the other way, right? So that's what we're trying to do. The second question about speed limits. So we just recently did this, right? We just recently changed all this, because all the speed limits in town before were 30, I think, and some of them were even 35, and some were 25. So we just, was it last year or maybe 2 years ago? I don't remember that we fixed the ordinance. Last year. We fixed the ordinance to make it 25 mile an hour in town unless otherwise posted. So every street, whether there's a sign for it or not, is 25 mile an hour unless it says something differently. Like 168th will be different. County Road 4 is different, but even County Road 37 is 25 miles an hour, which is actually kind of slow for that road, I think. And 25 is pretty slow. That's generally the speed limit in most school zones and in most places you go to, because usually your speed limit in even residential areas is 30. So but it is not up to me. I don't get to make that decision. We'll post we'll enforce whatever the legislative body decides they want to do with this. So that's not my decision.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, I really appreciate all of that. And thank you for the 2 quick hits back on the Tesla so that I can speak to that more effectively
Okay.
if somebody brings it up. I do think going ahead and talking about it with people now is a great idea. I think people need to understand that we're looking at it from a cost savings perspective. And I think that's very
Yeah,
smart.
and just for your own, if you want to talk about it, if you're doing that, the car we're looking at is 35,000. That's how much it costs. That's how much it costs for us. It's how much it'll cost for you to go buy. So I know people think Tesla and they're thinking $65,000, $70,000 car at the least, but the car we're looking at is 35,000.
Wow, that's good to know. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Trustee Westcott?
Just want to show you my pad of paper, which is backwards, but you can see Tesla is written down because I wanted to put that too. So Jeffrey, I echo what she said. I agree 100%. But I also wanted to just send out some kudos to Officer Allery, if I pronounced his name right, the SRO for the school district.
Right.
He sent out an email at the beginning, you know, as we were going back to school last week to the teachers and staff. I'm not sure if it went to the high school, just to the high school, or if it went to all the teachers, but I really appreciated. It was sort of a, here's what we do as the SRO. Here's what we're trying to do in terms of building relationships with kids. And I just thought that that's really important right now to get that messaging out. You know, there's the politics around that is so fraught right now. And so I just really appreciated that email. And I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. It seems like we have a lot of support in our school. And I know the superintendent's supportive, and I think probably most of the staff is. It's a little bit different place than some of the city school districts that are having the issues they're having. So I think we feel like we're supported there, and we try to earn that support. So,
Trustee Stroud?
Couple quick things. As far as the Tesla goes, it'd be nice to have something that we could plug in out in front of the town hall there in our charging station. Something else, you know, DRCOG has a program called Vision Zero, and it's trying to decrease the number of deaths on highways and on our streets and in school areas, in residential areas. I think if Mr. Johns or you could maybe check with DRCOG on that, they might help you pay for a couple of speed limit signs. They produce one that says Vision Zero on the top, and I think once people start asking themselves what Vision Zero is and trying to understand that we're trying to eliminate the fatalities that we have on the roads, whether it's automobiles or bicycles or pedestrians, you make some pretty nice catchy signs that really do get your attention. And a few of those in town, especially if they would pay for them, would be great.
all right, I'll check into that, Larry. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Trustee Kimberly?
I just wanted to reiterate the comments on Chief, your research on potentially looking at purchasing a Tesla. From my perspective and things I've done, communication is key and keeping ahead of it. So I totally support and endorse the idea of trying to get ahead of this before it gets any further out, because folks are not going to understand the dynamics unless we inform them the rationale why. Secondly, you know, to follow up on Trustee Jeffrey's comments about speed limit. You know, I've noticed already that County Road 2 has turned into a drag strip. You know, it's a challenge no matter what speed you go to. In my neighborhood, when you have kids that intentionally defy you and try to play chicken with you on their bike and scooters. So you have to have your head on a swivel, regardless of the speed limit. 25 does sometimes seem too fast in many of our residential neighborhoods because of the volume of kids that live here now, and those that just kind of ignore that they're playing in the middle of the street.
Yep. So Yeah, I think you're right. That's County Road 2. I think that's why we plan on trying to put some signs up there. But signs are only effective for the people to pay attention to them. So that doesn't really stop it. Now the new signs that we have, and also the one mobile sign that we can move around, they collect data for us, and we can do little traffic studies on every road we put that on, and we can show. And what it has proven is generally people aren't speeding like citizens believe they are, right? So they call and they talk about speeds, and so we put them up, and then we go back and look at the data, and they're not really speeding very fast, couple mile an hour over most of the time. You do get the occasional one that's a lot faster, but it's really the volume of traffic. So when you're talking about people that have lived here for a while, or maybe they moved into one of these subdivisions as they were newer, and now there's the construction growth has continued to go, the volume of traffic is really more. I think that's probably more their complaint, but they can't articulate it that way, right? Because because your head is on a swivel, because there's traffic everywhere, and so it's a combination, I think, and it's a constant battle for us. So we get traffic complaints from every neighborhood in town, and there's just no way to always be there for them. So we try to do the best we can do, and I'm hoping that some of these speed signs are a traffic calming concept, and if those if what Trustee Strock is talking about is available for us, I'm always up for getting more of them. I think if we get more of them, it'll be helpful. So I'll look into that.
Okay. I'm looking for any further hands. And seeing none, thank you for your update, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is 10B, water wastewater. I don't think Mr. Ramey was able to make it, but I'll check real quick. Yeah, I'm not seeing him, so we'll save his update for next time, unless there's anything quick you have, Steve.
I don't have anything right now.
Okay.
I did have Wayne look at compared the last 3 years by month in terms of water use. So I will have that report available for you too. And it shows kind of the water consumption over that 3 year period by month.
Cool. Okay. Next update was Public Works, Mr. Johns.
Yeah, so I have prepared the report for you. In the report, just a lot of updates with all the construction going on. Did want to kind of highlight, we had 84 shutoffs from what I'm to understand. That may potentially be the highest amount of shutoffs that we've had ever. So we've been very busy. We've been working with getting all the ADA ramps as far as the crosswalks painted and starting to get the signage completed for the path from Lockwood Park over to Lockbuoy Elementary. So been super busy, lots of updates here for you, and I'll just kind of open it up for questions.
I'll start with a question. This might be something that Linda can weigh in, and I'm not sure if you'll know it, but if that was super high in terms of the number of shutoffs, do we have some idea, were these people way behind, or was this just an abnormal month and a handful more were behind or something?
Our average is about 50, 55, right? And so these ones, I mean, no one was like, we had a couple that were a little high. We had one leak. Is that right? Yeah, I think one leak. And then the rest of them were just people that, you know, they weren't extremely high. And it wasn't like they were behind a lot of months. So kind of average just this, and a couple of them were due to obviously the COVID stuff, but we worked with those people, you know, trying to make payment arrangements and those kind of things. So we are, you know, just trying to help everybody as well as we can and do what we can. So yeah, it was, and I suspect for the next couple months, potentially it'll be closer to that than our average, until people get their unemployment checks and those kind of things. But we are, like I said, working with everybody, making payment plans, arrangements, whatever we can do to assist where we can. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for Mr. Johns? Looking for hands.
That's too easy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think you have any hands tonight. I was just going to say thank you for your updates. I really like the way you lay them out so that we can follow all of the various projects you guys are handling in town. And I really enjoyed watching the work that both your crews have been doing and have been monitoring. 168th looks good. The entrances to Berkshire's that are being repaired through Berkshire's landscaper, and you guys all look good. You guys have been doing great work over this course of the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to just tell the board, thanks for the approval of the smart meter. I would tell you from my perspective, I probably have 1 to 2 conversations with residents on a weekly basis about my lawn's super wet, what's going on, what's going on with my water usage, lots of leaks, lots of just educating the residents as far as what's going through their water meter and why maybe that usage is high. And I think the smart meter program is going to make it better for everybody. So I appreciate that.
Agreed. Okay, next update is Mr. Stamey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of updates. We would like to schedule maybe a little board gathering for recognition of a completion of 2-year construction projects for County Road 2 and the roundabout project. So we were looking at some dates, maybe in the morning, if the board could meet around, say, between 9 and 10 o'clock or so. Maybe we could meet at Town Hall and then on the site. So I don't know if the dates that I've discussed with the mayor include like September 4th or September 8th or September 10. And I don't know if any of those dates would work for some or all or none.
I'll check for hands and anyone who has any input. Trustee, yeah, lots of hands. Trustee Morris.
That one on the 10th would be the best one for me. The earlier ones I'd be unavailable for.
Okay, Trustee Jeffrey.
Unfortunately, having just started a new job yesterday, mornings on a weekday aren't an option. I mean, I would throw out, could we do something on a Saturday, but I'm sure that's not a popular opinion.
Trustee Ott. Are you muted, Dave? He had his hand up. Dave, I think you're muted.
I tried. Oh, there he goes.
There he goes.
Okay. I'm having my knees replaced on the 2nd. So the 10th would be the earliest I could do it.
Okay. Looks like the 10th is our front runner. Trustee Westcott.
I would just echo, I haven't started a new job, but it's just always really difficult to do anything in the middle of the day as a teacher. So I wish you all the best time at your gathering.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, the idea behind doing it during the week was so that staff could attend too. Is that right?
That's correct. And
okay,
we thought we'd just do a little, coffee and fruit and cookies or something, and then maybe a photo op out on the site if we could.
Yep. So I'm seeing no further hands. So I think our front runner was September 10th. So as long as that's good with staff, let's go ahead and plan it for then.
Okay. Then I have one other item, and just to make the board aware of, we've had some communication regarding the status of the farmhouse at Blue Lake. And so when Blue Lake was originally subdivided, the farmhouse there that sits on County Road 37 and the first entrance into Blue Lake was put on an open space tract. And the annexation agreement had a provision that that farmhouse would either be deeded to the Metro District, and an option was deeded to the town. I know there's been some discussion of the farmhouse recently. There was police were called out on the site to look at potential unauthorized occupancy in the building. We, in the past, Maureen and I had had discussions with LGI, who's the current owner of that property, about deeding that to the town. We do have an inspection report that was done back in 2000, around 2004, I believe it was. At that time, there was a lot of defects in the building, including the identification of asbestos. And, those conditions have just deteriorated over the last 12 years as well. So we were aware there's asbestos from that report, and I thought I'd asked LGI in a conversation a couple of years ago that if they could provide us with that report of asbestos, or more detailed report and a cost estimate for mitigation. They do not have that report, or if it was done, it's lost in their system somewhere. So if that were deeded to the town, we know we'd at least have expense in that mitigation. And then if whatever we do with the building would be try to restore and rehab, which would be a cost, or if it would be a demolition and convert the site into additional park space. So I guess my question is, do you want us to pursue this discussion with LGI in terms of the transfer of this property to the town of Loch Buoy?
Before I look for hands, I guess my question to you would be, what is staff's reaction to that? Does this make more sense for us to encourage them to give it to the Blue Lakes HOA, or is this a property we want that we think we could make use of without incurring a huge expense?
I think if you were going to do a secondary use for the building, you'd have a significant cost. Just looking at the photos, you'd probably spend 50 or 60,000 of, do an interior remodel of that. It's got windows. I mean, replacing a lot of windows. It's got knob and tube wiring. The plumbing, HVAC are all shot.
I saw Chief had his hand up, so I'll turn to him before I ask for board questions.
Okay, yeah, so I didn't get a chance to talk to Steve about this yet. Mark Bush called me this afternoon, asked me about that building and about our involvement over there. And we have had a couple calls over there, at least one where somebody had a sleeping bag and had broke in there and was staying in there. And so now he implied to me that he's working with LGI now to figure out some sort of a solution. So I don't know. It sounds like maybe there was an HOA discussion or something. So I see a nod there. So it looks like there's something going on there. Just so you know, Steve, I don't know what their plans are, but he was touching base with us. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
Okay.
Okay, Trustee Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor. I sit on the Bella Vista HOA board, not to be confused with the Blue Lakes HOA board, because the new build for Blue Lake subdivision, it has its own HOA, even though their sign out front says Bella Vista. If we are to take any sort of action, I would want some guidance from Maureen if it's appropriate for me to participate in that, or if it would be better off for me to recuse myself. Having said that, I will let you know that I received an email just prior to our meeting starting tonight that had a whole chain of things. And LGI's statement to our HOA board and our property management company was that they were waiting for the town to give, what did they say? They're waiting for a response from the town if they agree to the agreement that they had, whatever that is supposed to mean. So pretty vague, but it sounds like they're ready to turn it over to the town.
But I don't think the town has any obligation under the contract to take a deed for this property, to accept this property. And I think what Steve is asking is, with the potential issues with the building itself and the mitigation that would be required, and if we don't have an identified use for the building, is this something, do we want to take on this liability if we don't recognize an upside?
And I would say for the town, no, and for the HOA, because we all are property owners that see that as an eyesore, they would probably love to be able to make something happen if it were in their control.
Has the
Trustee
HOA
Strack?
given,
Oh,
has the HOA, I'm sorry, has the HOA given any indication what they might use that for?
No, because we just have been continually told, we don't own it, LGI owns it, we can't do anything about it. But I sort of love the idea of demoing it and putting in a nice community garden.
Trustee Strack?
I would do one of two things. Either the town should take possession of it and leverage it as a retail or a restaurant or something, or we should just demo it. So those would be my two suggestions.
Trustee Morris?
Yeah, thank you. If they were to deed it to the town, would that just be a paper transfer, or would there be any cost to taking possession of it? Not talking about the cost of renovating, rehabbing, asbestos mitigation or anything like that, or even demo, but what would be involved with the deeding over process?
Well, they can just quit claim it to the town, and the town could just take it in a quit claim, which is a really simple process. Or if the town wants clearer title, then we might want to actually get some title insurance and that kind of thing. So it really depends, but I guess that for me would depend on what the identified use is that the town would want for that property. And I don't know,
But
Steve,
then-
if you thought about anything other than just parkland.
Right, and then even to accept that, we would need to stabilize and make the property secure if we were gonna take possession of that property.
Okay, well, it sounds like obviously there's some liabilities with that property. I guess from my point, I would like to look into it a little further, or at least have maybe staff look into it a little further. The different options, one obviously being demo, and then what would we do with it? Secondly, what would be involved with bringing it up to code and up to an occupiable structure? Is it something that we could renovate and convert into an event hall or location, something that the town could rent out for events or functions or wedding receptions or whatever? I think there may be some opportunities with it, but I don't know the state of it. I've only seen it from the exterior. So I guess the nutshell is I would like to look into it and explore options, and then potential costs to those options before committing to one action or the other on it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, along Mike's lines, this could tie into some of our budget discussions on the 22nd too. Trustee App?
I agree with Trustee Morris. I would like to not make a decision right now on it, but look into it, because I don't know how old the building is. So there may be some money available from a conservation grant, conservation trust fund, or preservation trust fund. I think we ought to look into different options before we just say, no, we don't want it, or we want to demo it out of hand. Again, I have no idea how old the building is. So that would certainly come into play on some of the conservation and historic grants. Some of the farmhouses around here are pretty old. So, 50, 60, 70 years old. So I would like to look into it a little bit more before we decide what to do, especially the chances of getting grants to fix it up or convert it to an event center. That's all I have.
Okay. Trustee Strack?
I just would hate to see it turn into another Santiago's.
Yeah. Which they just keep spinning their wheels. And anyone else? Okay, Steve, I think you kind of have your direction, which is investigate a little further and see if we can get a little more information on what it might cost to rehab. So
I was gonna try and look and see if I could just pick up the age of the home real quick. This is a pretty lengthy inspection report. I don't know. I don't see the age of the property real quick. We'll try and get more information for it.
yeah, I think your initial response is everyone is kind of interested in maybe taking it on. So it's just a matter of, is that something that's economically feasible for the town?
Okay. And I could
Okay.
probably send out the inspection report to the board. I mean, I'm sure Larry would be interested in looking at that. So,
Certainly.
Okay.
no, and I'll send it
Anything-
out to the full board. Yeah.
Anything else, Steve?
No.
Okay. Any other updates from any other staff? Clerk Blackson?
I could just give a brief one. I mean, we're still at election time. I do have, I had one gal pick up a home rule charter commission packet today. She's on the fence if she'll go out and get signatures, and she might call prior to and just see if there's more people have turned it in, because, you know, no point in going out and knocking at people's doors in this COVID situation if she's the only one, since we need 9. But we'll see how that goes. I mean, we still have a couple days. I mean, today's the 18th, and Monday is the last day to pick up and bring back by the 4:30 that day. I do have, I had a mayor and a trustee packet returned. So those are done. Sorry, I have a fly bothering me. And then we have, oh gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's 5 total trustee packets that have been picked up, with only one of them being returned. So, you know, depending if they all bring those back or not, and then we still have those mayors, but only one mayor petition has been brought back. So if anybody knows anybody, or still, again, you know, and maybe these people will bring it back, but we should be good. The Charter Commission is just not looking promising. So, but again, there's a few days left. So just wanted to give you an update on that.
Okay. Anything from you, Mr. John?
No, nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I will go to the next item on our agenda, which is Mayor Trustee comments. And I'll start with Trustee Strack.
We don't really have anything. Tomorrow night, there'll be a Dr. Cog Directors Board and Budget and Finance meeting. Wednesday, there'll be a ACA, or Area Council on Aging, a meeting from 11 to 3. And so next time we meet, I'll try to report on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee, who sits next to you, Larry? Trustee Morris.
I have nothing this evening. Thanks.
Trustee Westcott.
I just wanted to mention again, I'm not sure if this is the right forum for this, but at our last HOA meeting at Silver Peaks, there was a lot of discussion about maintenance of commercial properties. So I guess people just, at least people in the Silver Peaks community, and I feel like this is probably community-wide, feel like some of the commercial properties that we have in town, they just are not taking any kind of effort, putting in any money into maintaining their outside structures, trash enclosures, landscaping, all of that kind of thing. And that just really that eyesore problem, people being very frustrated by the fact that these businesses just look so run down. So I just am communicating that feeling that I had expressed from my neighbors to the town, so that you know, if you didn't.
Especially when one of them is only 10 years old. Next would be Trustee Ott.
I just have one thing. The virtual, which I hate, as you all know, CML conference is next week. I would strongly recommend the new board members take some classes on that, because it is a wealth of information for stuff that especially, I remember when I first started, the water attorney would give a presentation and I probably looked like a deer in headlights. Now I have some clue of what he's talking about. And I would strongly recommend all the new board members to take some of those classes and learn. You know, there's just a wealth of knowledge you can get from those classes. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Jeffrey.
Speaking of virtual meetings, did we make a decision only through August, or did we decide through September as well to continue meetings virtually.
That was going to be what I bring up during my comments.
I
we'll
will
talk
wait
about what we're
until
gonna-
then. I would like us to maybe between now and our next meeting, talk with some neighbors, see what you see out on social media, and possibly have a conversation about the speed in these subdivisions. I thought Trustee Coomerly stated it pretty well. 25 feels really fast when you're on a curve and only one car can get through at one time and you can't tell if somebody else is coming or not. I have concerns about that, and I'm hearing from quite a few people that they do as well. And then I also just wanted to say, I happened to go into the library in Hudson a couple of weeks ago, and I've known the head librarian there for a very long time. I've known the director as well, but also the librarian, and, her youngest daughter just graduated. We were having a really pleasant conversation, and, she expressed a very strong desire to have conversations about how to better support the Lock Buoy patrons. And so I will do some research and find out if the library board is still meeting, since our other option seems to be, as Mayor said, dead for now. Just see what we might be able to get going for our community that's a little bit closer to home, because I do think that there is a desire there from the people that work in the library, and I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Kimberly.
We have nothing to add.
Okay. And then all I had tonight was just, we had earlier and previously decided to remain virtual as our default for the remainder of the year. I don't know if everyone else has watched the same news reports as me, but it looks like Colorado's numbers are now doing very well. I think we could possibly go back to in-person meetings if everyone is interested in that. I certainly don't want anyone to feel like they have to. We could consider the hybrid options that we had discussed previously. So I'm kind of just gauging where everyone stands on that. And if anyone has any input or thoughts, please raise your virtual hand now and we can talk about that. Oh, Chief McCoy has his hand up, so I'll go to him first.
I just wanted to, I was looking through that inspection report, so this doesn't have anything to do with that. I'm sorry. I just wanted to, it's an 85-year-old building in 2014 is what I see on that inspection report for that building, which might make a neat little library. I don't know.
True. Okay. Checking for hands on in-person, virtual, hybrid. Trustee Ott. Well, we know where you stand. Trustee Ott.
Yeah, I was going to say, y'all know where I stand. So don't be saying anything.
Okay. Trustee Morris.
I'd like to resume in-person meetings as soon as possible.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm inclined to go. Is there anyone who's really opposed to that, or that we need to make sure we can accommodate for hybrid or anything like that? And obviously, no, if things fall apart in the next 2 weeks with schools reopening and everything, then we can reassess from there. But I think I'm not seeing any hands opposed. So I think we will assume that beginning with our September 1st meeting, we'll try going back to in-person and hope that it works. I think that'll actually be beneficial to us in our budget conversations anyway. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that numbers hold where they're at now, and let's plan on in-person for September 1st. Does that work for staff? Cool. So with that, if anyone has anything else, go ahead and throw your hand up.
I have one quick thing. Just Crystal, this is something completely. Crystal had looked up that property, and it appears that that house is a 1929, built in 1929. So just FYI.
Cool. Okay. Trustee Westcott.
Sorry, just a really quick question, and I could probably just email into this, but with the CML conference, is that being recorded? So if I couldn't do it live, could I still pay to attend and then watch the sessions on my own time?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah, I just need to double check just because I know that there were, and I don't know about CML, but there was another conference that some of the speakers didn't want to be recorded.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that all of them are, and today's the deadline to sign up for that. So I could look real quickly and we could sign you up. I think it's midnight. That's the deadline.
I think I saw something in the communication about it that says something like, you want to be in person for this one, which made me think, oh, maybe they're recording them and then I could actually avail myself. But
Right. And again, I think there might have been a few that were recorded, but some were, I didn't think were going to be. Again, I could check real quick and text you.
The registration is only $100 this year, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. My suggestion, Trustee Westcott, would be just to register. And I mean, if it all falls apart and you can't attend, $100 isn't a huge amount blown. I mean, if this was a live in person kind of thing where it was going to cost $500 for you to go, I would have different advice. But I would say register, and if you're able to see some recorded, that's great. If not, it's not a big loss.
okay, well then why don't we proceed in that manner? And I apologize that I'm doing this to you at 8:56 p.m. on the last.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can do it right now.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
It says in the email they sent today as the last chance, you will have access to recordings of all sessions from the time they air through the end of the conference. So with that in mind, Linda, how about registering me too, please?
Go, go, go.
I'll get there.
Okay, Trustee, holy cow, we got all kinds of hands now. Trustee Strack?
I just wanted to mention that they've kind of moved the census up to the end of September, I think. I was wondering how we were doing and if you need any more handouts or if we could put something in our newsletter to get the people. I believe they're going to send people out and maybe try to contact them up as many times as 6 for the people that haven't responded. So the rush is on for the last month or so for the census.
Yeah. Okay. And last word, Trustee Yatt.
If you go on the CML website, it's my understanding that all training materials are available on the CML website for rebroadcast, even from past CML conferences. So you want to look up some of the stuff on the water law and that kind of stuff, you can find them in the previous CML conferences available for viewing.
Yeah. The last kind of thing I would say for all of you that are planning to watch the recordings is I would imagine anything where someone is speaking at you will be recorded and available. I would doubt anything where there's a roundtable will be, because there's probably concerns that would hinder some of the conversation that might otherwise occur. So, I mean, that's still probably helpful. A lot of the ones where people are talking at you are very good. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned at 8:58 p.m. and I will see everyone in person on September 1st. Night,
Thank you,
everyone.
board. Good night.
Okay, and I'll get you guys registered, so you'll get an email. May should get one tonight, and Jamie. So
Thank you so much, Linda. And again, I apologize.
that's all right. It's good. It'll be good for you.
Right. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
And,
Thank you.
and Linda, I'll try and pop over sometime tomorrow morning to sign whatever I need to sign.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, Linda, do you need more handouts for the census?
Let me check, and then can I call you?
Yep.
What was you gonna say, Jacob? I lost him.
Linda, I'm going to bring my packet back tomorrow. We decide I'm not going to run for mayor.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Yeah, and in the morning, I may not be here first thing, but Crystal or everybody's here, you can just drop it off.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Linda,
Yes,
would you mind registering me also for CML?
yes.
It's not too late, right?
No, I think I have till midnight. So we're doing Crystal has it pulled up and we're gonna start doing it right now.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for dropping this on you at the 11th hour,
That's all right.
but thanks. Thank you guys. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Why can I not shut up? I stopped recording, but why can't I?